The world has plenty to say about young people, what they watch, what they fear, what they should become, but how often does anyone stop and actually listen? Because beneath all that noise, there are questions, ideas still taking shape, and signals worth paying attention to. The Signal Room is not a stage for perfect answers. It is a space to speak honestly, to disagree thoughtfully, and to ask what adults may have forgotten to ask. This is your pathway into the Signal Room, where the conversation begins with the people shaping what comes next.
Welcome to this Horizon special dialogue produced with the Age of Culture Project and Atlas in collaboration with Miko's World. Today's conversation is called Before Peace, Friendship. In preparing for this dialogue, Miko Green said something very simple: you don't kill your friends. It was an impromptu line, but it stayed with us because it points to something deeper. Peace does not begin as an abstract idea. It begins when another person becomes real to us. Children often understand this before adults explain it. They learn it through play, music, stories, food, shared experience, trust, and the courage to meet someone different. Miko's world is built around those conditions: play, sound, stories, and peace. It asks how children can grow up with confidence, imagination, memory, and belonging in a world shaped by digital connection, loneliness, social pressure, and uncertainty. Miko Green joins me today to speak about the work behind Miko's World, the Peace Violin journey, the power of music in unlikely places, and the path towards the Signal Room, where young people will be invited not merely to be discussed, but to be listened to. Miko, welcome. I would like to begin not with the organisation, but with the thoughts behind it. When you said you don't kill your friends, what were you really trying to say?
Well, thank you for having this opportunity. When I said you don't kill your friends, I was talking about what happens when people become real to us. One of the things that concerns me today, there are many things happening around the world. And we hear on the news that dozens of or hundreds of people were killed somewhere in the world. And after a while, those numbers, it becomes numbers. Just people are not reacting as if it should matter. But when I hear about a missile strike in Ukraine or violence in Israel or whatever, I know a lot of people, right? When I hear any news, I think about friends I have met or children and musicians and teachers, whatever they are. I think about how they are. Are they safe? Then it just came to epiphany. My listening to world news, my reaction is very different. And one thing's for sure, I'm not going to kill my friends. So what if children around the world have opportunity to make friends when they're young? And so that they can be connected. So maybe there's a way to promote peace through making friends. And that's why I kind of said, you don't kill your friends.
It makes sense, doesn't it? Because it's always easier to imagine when people have first met. They've played or they've eaten together or they've listened or they've made something together. Do you think children understand friendship more naturally than adults?
Yes, because when they meet at the playground or a game, even today in digital, they don't know who they are, but they're enjoying time together. And the playground, when the 2-3 years old go to the park, they're just having fun. And then when they repeat it, recurring occurrence, they have names, faces, and shared experiences and fun, and then fun memories. And it's a positive memories, right? So I think peace begins when another person becomes real. It's not theoretical discussion of peace treaty or geopolitical discussion. It's a sensory, right? Just you remember the fond memory, or you recognize somebody who might be impacted by some other bigger event like bomb or something being dropped on their city. I mean, that's basically the genesis of you don't kill friends because you care about them.
They're real people in a way, aren't they?
Yeah,
They're not just
yeah,
abstract. They're real people with names and personalities.
exactly. It has nothing to do with
So,
ideology. It has something to do with, I know Michael. I know Michael, he lives in far away, but sometimes I have a great chat on whatever the common interest. It may be different things to different people, but giving an opportunity to get to know somebody in real person and become friends. And today, in a way, it's easy digitally, but real connection is in person. That's why I'm advocate of experiential learning, grassroots, kids meeting another kid or student meeting another person in different cultural setting.
in fact, it's interesting because as part of the Horizon Dialogue, one of the other speakers made that same comment that one of the most important things is to have that physical presence, not just a digital friendship. And there's nothing can substitute for the physical presence. Yeah, you can prolong it with the digital, but the physical presence is a must.
Correct.
Let me ask you a question because it's sort of, do you think friendship is more powerful than formal peace education?
Yes, for a couple of reasons. When you firsthand feel connection, it's truly real. You have an emotional connection. When you read about theory of peace or peace treaty and so forth, you hear about the historical peace treaties all in classroom. Is it sinking into the student's mind? I don't think so, because it's not related to their life. So I truly believe, particularly younger children, younger the better, in my opinion, they don't have a pre-notion of society, right? They don't. They don't have the sovereign nation's boundary or identity themselves and say, who am I? I'm the Japanese citizen. They don't have that. They just know their name and then they can play on the playground and they have a good time and so forth. So peace initiative, even in school children, when they learn about peace, if they participate, then they see something bigger than themselves being part of this so-called peace initiative. They can relate to them much better in real terms, pragmatic, physical term, like art project that we have in Genaga or violin project. They are part of it.
Sorry, which project was that? You
I have a
referred to a project. What project was that?
It's called Kids Guernica Mural Art Project. Young children, even preschool children, get to be a part of drawing what it means to be happy or peace. And they do their own drawing. And many times we make sure those banners travel around the world. Then they realize when they come back. In fact, I have one example is coming back to Lehigh Valley, where I just started this project last year. That one banner they were a part of have traveled 3 continents already. And then they see their art traveled around the world. And that's a real experience that they can be part of.
It's absolutely, and it makes me come to another question. We talked about physical and abstract, digital and physical. And what do you think happens when people stay just abstractions to one another rather than real people with shared experiences and shared life experience, etc.?
It's a good question. If you stay just strictly digital, that dimensionality is different, right? There are many kids who play game. I know many young people in anime world or game world are friends through games, but connection is limited to that dimensionality, not as a full person, right? If you are with the person physically for one day, you have a chance to do different activities, even eating together or listening to music together, simple thing. You're spending time together to even decide what to do for activity for fun. You find a different angle of individual when you're together in person. You learn about the person you would never know when you're just connected digitally. Do you know what I
No,
mean?
no. Yeah, I do very
Virtually,
much so.
yeah, yeah.
But listening to you, it reminds me of a situation here in Europe. There's 30 plus
Mm,
different nationalities, and on the
mm,
freeways in France in summertime, you may in fact have 15 or 20 different nationalities parking their cars and having lunch. And they have
mm.
kids. And those kids don't know each other, but they play together in the playground. They don't speak each other's languages, but they play with each other in the playground. And it's a wonderful thing to see. My
Yeah,
brother-in-law, when he was little, he didn't speak a word of German, but he would go up to the German kids and play with them, and they thought it was great. It was almost as if language was not a barrier.
it's not. That's another thing I tell Japanese students. They are very timid about not being able to communicate fluently, right? And I said, no, communication is not verbal. It's being together, even gesture or eye contact, or how you do things together. By doing things together, you can communicate. Good example, origami, right? I promote origami making and so forth. Those Japanese kids can teach origami. And do you need that linguistic explanation? Answer is no. Show by doing, and then share that steps together. And then language barrier is not the barrier at all. It's just sharing the same space together. And
And
that's
perhaps it's
the
because they learn to recognize each other as humans, don't they? As kids, they're just
that's it.
fellow
That's
human
that's
beings.
that's a key way. See, then the commonality. Oh my gosh, everybody, the person might be different, but they enjoy same thing. And that's why music is so powerful.
Mm,
Music is not language, right? Music
no.
of the European classic music, violin music, it may have the origination from Austria or whatever. It has nothing to do with how people react to these sounds, particularly in person. It's so much more powerful when you're together in same room, in close proximity to the real sound coming out.
You mentioned some of the artwork, the Guernica project, where art travels around the world and it finds itself in unusual places and then comes
Mhm,
back. And it makes me think of, we discussed once upon a time music in unusual places as well, wonderful
mhm.
music in sad places. And these sorts of juxtapositions of beauty with ugliness sometimes generates some sort of humanity that is difficult to explain. And I'm just drifting here towards Miko's world in a way, because it's really one of the foundations of Miko's world, isn't it? To sort of build this ecosystem of friendship, of trust, of difference, but helping children to sort of use whatever. Maybe it's music, maybe it's poetry, maybe it's literature, to deal with
That's right.
loneliness and
Mhm,
and get on with the world. So
mhm.
what was the impulse you had to sort of build Miko's world? I'm looking at these wonderful animals behind you, the cat and the dog, and they look very friendly and very, very happy. So what was the
Because
impulse behind the creation of Miko's world?
because it's Miko's world is not begin with such a name or anything. Just it's just a way of living, right? Like you see dog and a cat. I love animals. I definitely love animals, and animals sense the openness that I have or whatever. And oh, I used to say I'm a dog whisperer before Cesar Milan or whatever. And it's so true. The energy, being open, and then dog and a cat used to be old days. They used to be enemies, right? Long time ago, they didn't get along. But these days, in modern life, you see all the YouTube to TikTok, cross species friendship is built everywhere because they're not competing anymore for food or what have you. But it's like a way of living thing, right? This really started with how I see. This is not something I wasn't thinking sharing, but Syria, right? All the children back in all the conflict. I started my initiative through the conflict. I wanted to help somehow. In refugee camp, children, they don't know that global conflict or conflict in their home country. They just live in refugee camp.
Yeah.
If you create I had a play blanket I created with the kimono repurposed things and dolls and so forth and puppet. My rationale was kids can play anywhere, sandbox, in a castle. It really doesn't matter. That moment they can play with somebody right next to them, they have a good time. That's a genuine good time, happiness. And that is kind of start of it doesn't matter what it is. And interestingly, this Miko's World came about because the team asked about my name, and my name comes from the mythological knowledge, the characters and so forth. But also, it is a word that is used in Japan in shrine, Shinto shrine, someone who helps connect the sacred and ordinary world, right? And then Miko, the way they settled on Miko is a beautiful child. That's the Chinese character, beautiful child. And I love that because every child is beautiful, right? And then this Miko's world is somewhere you can actually play and explore and inquire about what they're interested in. Each child has a different interest, which is nothing wrong with that. And a place where they can explore and hopefully where they can learn about history or other area of interest or learning how to play violin or other things using this platform in technical platform, but in really safe way and share what they share as an interest, right? They can kind of explore. It's open within the Miko's world, but it's like a guardian angel is looking out for you. So it's a safe environment that can be created and they can explore, because I cannot reach out to the whole world. I wish I could with the grassroots, but there's a limitation. What is the best substitute to that? Digital world, but still allow each child to explore and learn. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No, it makes perfect sense. And it sort of raises the question is, what kind of child were you?
I think I'm a product of post-war, World War
Uh,
II, as a baby boomer, and I was a
yeah.
maverick, right? So when you think about 1960 in Japan, it was post-World War II, still under occupation, but it's coming of Japan as a newly rebuilt country. So there was a vitality to it. I remember Tokyo Olympics. I remember Shinkansen. I remember all those things that so many things were possible. So many things was possible. And my parents showed me that. So I was really a kind of person who asked question. I'm still curious, forever curious. I will always say, why? And particularly gender equality back then, it's called the Showa era. Japan had a certain image of proper girl, well-behaved, proper girl. I was not that, right? But then I would ask, why, right? Like, why is it not good to be independent, curious, ask question, and challenge the social norm? Do you know what I mean? I always was yeah, I think
No,
foundational
absolutely. I mean, it was,
with 4 years old, enrolled in first preschool for working families. And I think that created two things. One, I was the youngest one among the 4 years old. That's a huge difference at that
Yeah.
point. Then
Yeah.
second year around, I'm the veteran of preschool. When first time 4-year-old enrolling, I was like, okay, I can show you how things work or whatever. I felt totally comfortable, right? And then in teenage years, the era of Japan with the economic growth, Rotary Club, I was exchange student, first exchange student in my hometown, great opportunity. And I think all the challenge or opportunities came upon me, and I took that opportunities. And then I found you can find friends and families in host families. In fact, the host family I had, three of them are still my families. And I had to learn it. I didn't know anybody when I flew into New York, but the family became my family, and brothers became my brothers, and so forth. I think I was so fortunate throughout my life, teachers and mentors and colleagues in work and so forth, friends, great friends or guardian angel or mentors came into my life in each phase of my life. College years, I still have great relationship with the college professor, if you can believe that.
I can.
40 some years
Absolutely.
later.
No,
So,
but I can. We have
so
something in common. I too was an exchange student with Rotary. I went to Europe and it was a transformational experience. So I
see,
understand exactly what you're talking about.
that's why Miko's World is so dear to me, because you cannot provide the in-person experience to all the children. It's not
No,
possible. So
no.
then how do you bring the world to the children who decides to enter? They have to decide to enter Miko's World. They have to be curious. But once they decide, I think that is an area they can learn about different culture or through sound or music or whatever it is, play. They will have a different dimension of life that they can learn. Otherwise, it's not open to them. And that, I think that's why it's my mission. And in a way, I feel digital world that tweens live today, we can make it more enriching rather than playing some games for the sake of scoring some scores or whatever. I don't know. I don't know much about the gaming industry, but meaningful interaction that is not restricted, but open conversation, because they are a person with they are a full person with a perspective about what is going on around them. They're exposed to more information than we ever were. So they are more knowledgeable about the world around them. And then we can provide different exposure, right? And that is vetted and factual, truthful, historical events with no opinions. Something happens, something great happens, or something horrible happens. It's a event that takes place in history, and learn about it and create the independent thought about it. How they will receive is up to how they interpret, right? And I want that curiosity, inquisitiveness, and learning about other culture to be part of finding who they are. Because I found myself who I am through being exposed to different values in different places throughout my life, early on to even later on corporate life in different companies that I had to go visit for merger and acquisitions. And it's always people relationship that is most difficult, not the technology integration,
You said actually earlier that one of your principal characteristics, values, or whichever label we want to use is curiosity, that you're curious. And you've just said there again that curiosity is what allowed you to build yourself into the person you are today. I want to talk just a little bit about Miko's world because, as I understand it, Miko's world is built on 4 pillars. We've talked a little bit about a play, how important play is. We've talked a little bit about sound, particularly the music and how important music, it crosses borders. Stories and the importance of storytelling. And then peace, and how do we make peace something real through friendship? So what using those 4 pillars, and I don't want you to repeat yourself because you've been dropping in and out of Miko's world, but what is Miko's world in your own words, looking at those 4 pillars?
To me, all those experience through play or music, what have you, stories, whatever, and recognizing through various activities, I want the young people to walk away thinking we come from different background and belief, but at the end, we all want to live happy, peaceful life with friends and families, feel safe, and being able to pursue whatever it is one wants to pursue. So what I want the young people to learn is living through the experience that is so-called shared moment, whatever the moment is, that joy that they feel, they share is a human emotion that is universal, right? And then they can understand we may be different, but we all want to live in secure, loving environment where we can feel joyful and feel happy, right? So that's it's like a method, right? The method in which we deploy the education of how do you become compassionate and a peaceful being. First, you have to understand you yourself or oneself has to be comfortable with oneself, right? Just find out who you are. Then once you know, find out what you enjoy. Like it's basically as this. Some kids love sports, great. Some kids like sound, would be great. But explore, be adventurous. Then don't expect that activity result in whatever the success means in society or whatever. It's not like it's a moment shared. Is a worthwhile time spent? Then once they feel the true joy of shared time, shared moment, that so-called loneliness or feeling lonely, not being understood should wither away, because that's what I'm trying to achieve through all different way of reaching out to young people, if it makes sense.
Absolutely. And you talked about, play, music, and stories and the shared moments. It's very powerful, isn't it? That those shared moments are the foundations on which humanity is built to some extent. And yet play is so underestimated by adults, isn't it? It's as being something important. And yet it builds confidence, it builds trust, it builds curiosity and social change.
And a simple thing is a play, right? We used to play before computer, like you remember the days without the computer. We made up some games ourselves, right? Among the children with the stones or, silly plants or something. We make up something. And then all the disagreement or fight is resolved through negotiation or whatever, talking to each other, or even, physical fight or whatever. The following day, it's forgotten about it. And then they're friends again. Another day happens. So that direct contact people have or shared moment they have, somehow we are underestimating the power of young kids playing with total stranger kids. They do that all the time. They don't exchange business card and say hello, you know. I mean that's
No,
the thing. It's not the role play.
no.
Play is played with who they are. Then the conflict, whatever. One kid wants the Tonka truck, you know, the other kid wants that too. But they somehow sometimes come to agreement. Okay, you can have 3 minutes. And then they'll say, okay, you can have it, whatever, take turns or whatever. And that negotiation in play or sports or whatever, they learn the rule of engagement that is understood and mutually respected with each parties. And then they walk away. It's okay. I can live with it. Right. And then they prefer to play together. And I think play is so, so important. Play is joyful, fun. Why not? And I even take it as far as learning should be fun.
Yeah.
Learning is so much fun to learn about new things that you didn't know. And that's how I feel. Yeah.
And it's also things should touch the soul. I mean, I think the story of Haku and Kira, traditional
Mhm.
enemies, the cat and the dog, but they're best
Mhm.
friends. So there's a whole symbolism behind that pair as well, isn't there?
Mhm.
That even though initially they have differences, they're best friends.
Mhm.
So I'm just thinking, one of the wonderful things that Mika's World has done is the Peace Violin journey, the
Mhm.
tour, in fact. And we're talking about not just music, but special instruments as well. These special instruments, they carry memory. They've survived some of the worst events in human history, and yet they still make beautiful music. So tell us
Mhm.
a little bit about why those peace violins matter so much and what can they do to continue to extend peace, friendship, and trust in humanity.
Mhm. I'm new to this project, and I have to give credit to Mr. Watanabe, who has been bringing peace violin to several places in Europe and in Japan last several years. And this time, we brought Holocaust violin that is a part of Hope Violin that has been a project of father and son team, the Weinsteins. Hope Violin around the world, there are about 80 plus violins restored. And those violins are rented out to be heard in musical events around the world. Yet Watanabe-san and also another violinist, Woody, retired violin cellist from Philadelphia Orchestra, came up. Wouldn't that be awesome to bring two surviving violin for live event played by young musicians to show the object that survived the most horrific human atrocity still creates beautiful music played by young people, young musicians, and send the spirit of history, right? The history of horrible event, yet the music that young people produce together or independently in a historic location. We chose a lot of historical
Mm,
location of World War II to around Europe and a symbolic place in USA. It has a meaning in it. That sounds played by young musicians are so powerful because
mm,
two objects, it doesn't have spirit or life or anything, but in a way, Japanese belief, everything has spirit, right? And I
yes.
truly believe that the Holocaust violin had an owner who played that instrument. And
Mm,
violin with a Hibaku violins is another remarkable story from 1918 with Bolshevik Revolution, right?
yes.
And this come from Russia originally, escaping the Bolshevik Revolution, ended up in Hiroshima, then somehow this Mr. Polchkov ended up teaching music in Hiroshima. Then Hiroshima bomb happens. Then he ends up being United States in Monterey as a Russian language instructor. Yet 40 years ago, to honor the grandfather, Tony Drago, the grandson of the original owner, and the family decided to dedicate the violin back to the Hiroshima Jogakuin, the school, for 100th anniversary. Then it was restored by Japanese violin repairer in Italy about 20 years ago. Then it became playable, although there was a lot of scars from the bomb, since it miraculously survived the bombing on August 6th, being 2.5 kilometers from the center of the bomb.
Yeah.
Somehow it survived. So this restored violin, and along with another violin, Holocaust violin, we pick different violin depending on the location availability, and we hope to pair up these two violin to different location to share the story to young people, because history has to be told and
Yes.
shared so that we don't repeat. Because if you don't know, you might repeat the same mistakes.
Mm.
And
There's
it
a
should,
there's a beautiful dichotomy, isn't there, about a young person playing a violin that has survived, in inverted commas, the Hiroshima atomic bomb. And I'm wondering, have you seen any changes in the young people that have played these violins? Have
yeah,
they understood what they're playing? Have they understood the history that they have in their hands?
yes, because there were several different violinists throughout the USA tour to European tour. It's remarkable to see those young violinists. They have very little time to rehearse because they have not really touched it, but to touch this violin that has been touched by many people
Mm.
before them, but originally it was under ashes and whatever. It was just, they survived it. And then it is creating sound they make. And I see that transformation of the musician about their feeling about peace, peace building. Because
Mm.
one example I saw was the 12 years old, her name is Catherine, a lovely girl from Monterey. I was not sure how committed she was in being part of this event, but after she met and touched the Hiroko violin, played with another violinist from Hiroshima, 19 years old, who's been playing more than a couple dozen times at that point, sharing her music and also her attitude, right? That
Mm.
responsibility to share this precious one in the world musical instrument, sharing the sound. The sound must be made from their skill, right? The spirit. Violin is almost like can read that person's mind or heart. It makes such a soulful sounds, and of course the music that they select, it's so
Oh,
powerful, and that vibe is felt in the entire
it,
audience. I
with
felt it. And then that 12 years of Catherine, she literally changed. I saw from
yes,
sort of a curiosity, right? Like once, I don't know, this is a Quebec violin. And only 4 hours later, after the concert, I think she realized she is part of something much bigger than herself with her wonderful skill that she has in playing violin, very exceptional talent. But it was more than that. And then that com common interest or shared vision with another violinist, Canon. Her name is Canon. Um, from Hiroshima, she shared her mission in talk in English. She shared why she's doing US tour. She feels not only it's her duty, but it's her privilege to be able to play that instrument that has survived. And she's truly committed to music because she has the opportunity to play and share the story.
I think
That's so powerful.
you used a couple of key words there. You used the word responsibility. You used the
Yeah.
word privilege. Something else comes to mind, and that is the notion of that they grow with courage rather than fear because of what they're doing.
That's what I saw. Yeah.
And that brings us to children today and the sorts of experiences that they need to develop properly. So connecting Miko's world with the present, and you've mentioned the digital life and loneliness and social pressure and courage and the importance of lived experience. So a recurring theme in your work is exposure, not exposure as publicity, but exposure to beauty, to excellence, to kindness, to difference, to good people, I suppose, to good-heartedness even. And your experience of being exchange student in New York, I think, brought that to life personally. You've taken music to children who may never otherwise have sat close to a violin or heard that kind of sound. So what do you think children need today that adults are not giving them enough of?
Just direct experience of all sorts without any expectation. Like allow them to explore or adventure without the fear. So that's why I think Miko's world is very important to me, because the internet or AI, that negative feeling about who knows and what's going to happen when the kids are always in the smartphone many hours and so forth. It is true, because particularly when it comes to AI, I always say to the people, as a former IT professional, former, lover of technology, baby boomer like us have a lived experience, and I know how to prompt, I know how to refine that response that I want to get, because I know the output I want to get. But children don't know. So you have to have that environment. And I don't blame parents either for worrying about what kind of environment they're going to be exposed to in digital. So that's why more than ever, I feel, how can we create the direct experience of all sorts of varieties? And a culture is a very important part of it, right? The music to different, I even have a kimono project with a yo-yo ball project and different things to make things and learn how to do things. And I think grown up today, or parents today, I want them to let them explore without fear of failing or without expectation. Maybe that's the word. Because I want them to find who they are. So they never know.
So part of your work would be giving children permission to be what they like and be as they like, rather than, trying to fit into something else.
Exactly. The peer pressure, I hear that cyberbullying, all those things, and some of the Asian community more than ever, that definition of beauty or definition of how you should look became more defined in a strange way to me, because everybody is different, right? Everybody's different. Like,
but we all want to look the same. But we all want to look the same.
And the interesting thing is, though, I always say, don't worry about it. You shouldn't care what other people think, but that they have to feel confident about who they are, right?
Well, that brings us to another question, doesn't it? How do children build courage?
Well, trying to experiment different things and explore, then find the having a safe environment to be listened to, because they have the voices that is so fresh You experience something, the perspective of young children, right? So honest, it is so true. It's
Yes. As they
like,
say in English, out of the mouths of babes, the truth can be brutal. But
and
that's
it
it.
is
It's
so true
fresh. It's
though.
fresh and
And
honest
and
and brutal.
and then tweens, like a young, not quite adult, but becoming aware of the world around them, their perspective is so to the point that we should be humbled to know, oh my gosh, they are so right, right? We need
Mm.
to listen. And then at the end of the day, as a baby boomer, we are kind of on a sunset age, right? But the society today that we are leaving behind is what they inherit, right?
Yes.
They are the next residents and the next leaders and next, social habitat, habitated by them, right? They become the mover of the society, social value frameworks of social values. I think we now is the time to listen to their perspective, and then courage comes when they feel, wow, my voice, my opinion matters because it really does. I think we have not listened to the fresh perspective of young people who have so much more exposure to knowledge than when we were their age. They are much smarter than when I was, 12 years old, 13 years old. I mean, they have so much more information, but do they have the lived experience? Answer is no, but could they
No.
share the opinion, right? Could they share what they see happening? I think platform to allow them to share with their peers and acknowledge their perspective as a custodian of Miko's world, whatever. I hear you. This is what you see because I see so many different perspectives coming from high school kids, middle school kids, and then even younger. Their opinion not only matters, we should listen
Yeah.
and appreciate.
But it brings me to, you're talking about children and kids and etc. And you mentioned, in fact, the digital age. It's a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? That
Yeah,
children can be constantly connected, but they still feel alone. And connection is not the same as belonging. And I think that's part of, I think, the challenge is to give kids a sense of belonging. And as you
yeah.
Kev, shared real world experience. So
That's a real world, grassroots.
yeah,
That's what
yeah.
I've been doing, grassroots.
Yes,
We really have to touch the
exactly,
person. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So we're looking at an initiative called the Signal Room, and
Mm-hmm,
it's not what it's what, trying to move from what we think children need to
mm-hmm,
what adults must do to change. And
mm-hmm,
we often hear, children of the future, but saying that is not the same as listening to them. And you just mentioned, it's important to listen to them.
mm-hmm.
So the fact that the people who will live longest with the consequences of today's decisions are in fact the children of today, and unfortunately they're the least consulted. So what do you think adults need to relearn about listening to children and young people? You just mentioned their brutal truth, and they just say,
Mm-hmm.
that they don't gift wrap what they're saying. It comes straight out, straight out. So what do we need as adults need to relearn about listening to young people?
Listening without any answers in our head, right? I mean, be
Yes, yes.
blank. Be be blank is not the right word, but sort of
No, I understand. Don't correct them. Let them speak.
let them speak and then let them speak to other teenagers or other age group and hear what they see, the commonality of perspective, right? They can create the bond too, right? I'm hoping they will have some common interest today more than ever because of the digital media to music, common music, or whatever it may be. I think once they find opportunity to speak openly about what is the topic when we create the framework, guided framework. It's not to really teach them or anything. It's just giving the environment where they can safely share honest opinion of what kind of world do they wish to have, right? That would be so, like, I'm sure they have thought about, ponder, what kind of life they prefer to. I want them to think that because maybe they don't have a time to think. They have so much information coming at them, but I would like to have to me, Signal Room is a place they can really contemplate, think in their head, and share how they see today's world. And then there's a gap between what they see as a world they want to live, right? At the end, they are the people who are going to inherit this world. So
Yeah.
I think it's the best time to listen to them in some safe environment where we grown up old people can learn, wow, that's how you see what's happening. Because quite frankly, from my 1960s growing up, of course, we had a TV, but we didn't have much thing. But we had the united vision of inspiration. I still remember John F. Kennedy to, other people making speech, Martin Luther King's speech and so forth. There was something aspire to, right? And I think today's young people can be that. Yeah.
It's about having a dream, like Martin Luther King said. And when you talk about listening, I think it's probably it's the highest form of care that adults can offer young people is to listen to them without prejudice, listen to them without judgment. Just listen in a way that requires patience, privacy, and trust, so they can then continue to express themselves. And it's not listening to young people. It's not a soft gesture. It's actually a design responsibility for the future, I imagine.
Yes.
So, and that's where it's not easy to listen to young people because as adults, we learn to sort of give our opinion and say, oh, I don't agree with that, and then offer advice. And sometimes they don't want the advice. They're just expressing themselves. And we need to accept that they're expressing themselves and we let them express themselves.
And that's what the guardian angel is about, right? Like that's people. I had those people listen to me questioning, and I had those people every step of the way from young age to even professional development. I've been fortunate. So could we be within the Signal Room or Miko's world? Can we be such guardian angel in digital world, but that create the safe environment, That's what
I mean, they've got 1.3 billion tweens that are waiting for their future. So their future is going to be something that they create. And the Horizon dialogue, we're built a place for adult thinkers, cultural leaders, and practitioners. But if we're serious about the future, the next question is pretty obvious, isn't it? What about the young people?
Listen to the
listen to them.
future citizens. Yes, I think that's the most powerful thing we can do.
And just to explain to the listeners what the Signal Room is, it's a protected listening space where young people can speak about the world they're inheriting and where adults are asked to listen with care, seriousness and humility. And they're rare traits in adults these days. So let me ask you, why there's a leap, isn't there? There's not a leap, there's a step. Why does Miko's world naturally lead towards the Signal Room? Tough question.
Oh, I think Miko's world is where they can kind of explore and all those things. Then hopefully there is a room, like there is occasions that we need to create to share their experience, right? For instance, Catherine and Canon, who were part of the violin tour, I'm hoping they will participate in Signal Room to share their perspective through first-hand experience. What do they think about the world and what they experienced in violin, or Kids Guernica art project kids,
Yeah.
or whatever. There's so many of them. So I think it's all thread connected together to come together to create the platform where those young people can share what the experiences they had means to them, and then really go to the next step of, okay, what is going on in the world? What is a role that they play? Because they are active participant in sending the message of peace, right? And Signal Room will provide that platform. And I'm hoping once they have such platform to share their perspective, they want to come back more. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That
Yep. Yep.
continued, it's almost like a alumni association that is very active. Some university, some college has a active alumni association. I like to see ongoing conversation continuing among themselves. First, very nicely framed, guided way. But
Yep.
my hope is that that trust relationship they can nurture can lead to true conversation they can have amongst themselves. Then
And
just
they
imagine 30 years, they might be running a country. Who knows? So they
exactly,
can,
and they can have conversations that matter
yes,
to them. They're
yes,
conversations that are not judged, and they're
right.
conversations based on free expression. So
Yep.
it's. I mean, we've talked about how communication allows children to develop, how play teaches children to develop, but
Hmm. Hmm.
certainly the freedom to
Yep.
communicate and express
Yep.
themselves will be a fundamental building block in that development also.
Yes.
So it's a I suppose I'm just sort of, we're running short on time, I think, and I want to sort of wrap things up the right way. So, Miko, you were talking about if a child were to encounter Miko's world and later Signal Room, what do you hope you would sort of see the changes in them? But let's sort of invite our listeners to visit the worldofmiko.org. What
Mhm.
would they find if they were to visit the worldofmiko.org?
They have a very many selections to kind of explore. They can actually learn about Hiroshima Violin Tour, and also they can learn about the episode of Kira and Haku. They have the question room and so forth. They can really, the game room. There are many ways to visit and explore, and depending on their interest, they might find different tabs more intriguing to them. But
Okay.
through all those tabs, I think they learn about different activities that is across different culture and geographical locations, and it has a meaning in each location we visit. And yeah, so I'm hoping they will find it fun place to visit and see what they can learn, something
Well,
that they didn't know.
when you're talking about learning, we also have I think it's called the Question Garden, isn't it? And the
Yes,
Question Garden is an AI learning environment for kids.
yes,
What about that?
yes.
Speak a little bit about that. Tell us what that's all about.
It's that's a wonderful room that we just begun to we I was introduced to it after it was uh, made up, made the structure. You can literally ask questions what you're curious about, and since that question garden has a pre-notion, the history of what has been done in the past with the Miko's world and whatever, it
Uh-huh.
can carry the conversation about what has happened, what is going to be happening, or what is the perspective of the questionnaire, the question person, the whoever questions. It really respond back with a real framework of the sort of safe vetted, truthful response based on the factual events that took place. So I love that because it's not like a open, large data from somewhere
No.
coming in, giving the hallucination or wrong data. It's a environment where they can ask the questions about what they see and get the answer based on the information that is already vetted and carry truly conversation that
Yeah.
is equipped with the neurodivergence to all the different diverse listeners or participants. And I think that's a wonderful environment, and that's also expressed in Japanese and English, and it's awesome. It's like a safe environment to talk, and you can talk to them, talk to the question garden.
That's
And
fabulous. And it's also a factual foundation of truth, isn't it? So
that's the key thing, though. It's not something that, oh, it's fake AI. You hear that all the time. It's not. It is based on truly vetted fact, truth, given back in honest answer in very humanistic way. It's a very good conversation that young people can have.
just a quick question before we close then with regards to that. What do you see as the benefit of offering that to young people? Obviously, truth is important, facts are important, but is it the freedom
They
to
learn
ask
to ask
questions?
questions. They learn
Right.
to ask questions.
Ah,
I
yes,
think
that's it.
I think in Japan, maybe I'm partial to Japanese students because I hear about it. ESL, the English as a second language instructor, I asked them, how are the students? They're good students, but they're quiet, right?
Yes.
Quiet, no questions. I said, what? They don't have any questions? I said, no. I said,
So it's a
why?
cultural transformation, in fact. It encourages kids to ask questions, which
And
comes back to your first point about how
yeah.
you were curious.
Yeah, I'm out of box person, a maverick to begin with. And then luckily, every milestone of my life, I had a great guardian or mentor. I'm so fortunate with that,
Yes. You
I
mentioned
think,
that with your family in New York. You mentioned that was a
yeah,
watershed moment. But
it is.
let me just we the conversation we started today.
Mhm.
We began with the idea of peace, and
Mhm.
there's friendship, and we talked about kids who don't understand each other, but nevertheless they play and they get on just well.
They do. Mhm.
So what this conversation actually has shown us is that belonging doesn't happen by accident. It's created through play, through music, through stories,
Mhm.
through memory, through, as you mentioned, shared experience, and then trust and the willingness to listen. So
Yep.
Miko's world, in a way, reminds us that children do not inherit culture only through lessons or institutions. They inherit it through what they're allowed to do, feel,
Right.
hear, imagine, and share. So it's the real
Yeah.
world again. So
Sensory. It's a sensory. They have to feel it. Feel
yes,
the
and
experience. Yeah.
that's what the music does, doesn't it? It gets into your
Yeah.
fiber. You can feel it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and so the path to Miko's world is from Miko's world to the signal room is therefore it's a natural path. It's a natural progression.
Mhm.
And if young
Mhm.
people are to inherit the future, and they will, they must be
They will.
heard in the present. So
Right.
thank
I
you
think
so much.
urgency. Yeah.
Please go ahead.
Urgency. Yeah. Urgency is real because of the AI progression.
Yes.
What has
Yeah.
been happening geopolitically? So they will inherit this world now with a 1.3 strong with 2035 or whatever the goal we talk about SDG, whatnot, sustainable society. To make it
Mm.
sustainable, we have to have those people's 1.3 billion strong voices heard. So they are the main driver of what policies, what direction that we can make so that the humanity can learn to communicate. Humanity meaning person to person.
Yep.
Future leaders can build the trust. Trust begins with friendship, personal, make everything personal.
Personal
And
and not abstract.
correct white paper in theoretical discussion doesn't count.
And that brings us back to your 4 pillars, and I think we have to sort of ensure that these 4 pillars resonate and live. The importance of play, and not just play for play's sake, but play for all of the other good things it does, building confidence and trust. And then sound,
play together.
That's right. Then we talked about sound and the way music can enter your being, into your fiber, and it creates memory and feeling and connection. And then we talked about storytelling and how children in particular, learn to imagine through storytelling, and that a power of imagination is something they have to take with them. And then, of course, peace, and you talked about the violin tour and the fact that peace is something that is lived through recognition. It's not necessarily taught as an idea. You need to look at it as, yes, peace is there as recognition, and it can become real through friendship. And I think friendship, you mentioned.
Yeah, participation.
And participation.
Peace is that individual decision, choice. You choose peace consciously, to be kind, empathetic. Understanding doesn't mean agreement. Understanding means I understand your position. I understand, but we have to coexist. So why don't we come together to compromise in diplomatic, terms that we see today everywhere? But young people learn to live together, enjoy together. They recognize everybody wants to be happy, pursue their dream, and we can coexist is the message. But to know that, you have to know different cultures. Not everybody lives in the same way that you live. It's okay. No. It's okay.
So in fact, peace becomes real, or rather peace is possible when another person becomes real to us.
Yeah, peace is a choice. Conflict or war is a choice too. War and peace, it's a choice. And I believe very positively, young people today will choose peace over conflict and war. I really do. If we show them wisdom from the history, atrocity, all those things, not the hatred, it's a wisdom we have to pass on. This did happen. Bomb happened. Atrocity happened. Yet, can we go beyond that? Can we live together? Recognize everybody wants to be happy.
Well, it's a bit like the tagline that started the conversation, isn't it? You don't kill your friends.
It's so true.
That's it. So, look, thank you so much, Miko, for joining us on this Horizon special dialogue.
Thank you.
It's just a wonderful building block of future peace and bringing the next generation up to talk to one another in real time.
Yeah. Thank you so much.